Good evening and welcome back to the Goofy Investing channel. Been a while since I put out a video, but hey, told you before, I only like to put maybe 1 to 3 videos out a week, only when pertinent news comes out when it comes to my investments and so forth. Today we're going to be talking about Planet 13. This is I guess it's a small cap, micro cap, penny stock, if you will. Um, that nonetheless I think shows good promise, and if you're willing to take risks and position appropriately. All right, so Planet 13, for those that are not aware, they are the company in Las Vegas that have this big dispensary. Like, they have the largest dispensary in the US. So if you go to Las Vegas, you can go check that out. They're right off the strip, and you can partake and smell the flowers, if you will. So this industry has been in bear market for years, I'll admit. This is an industry that is limited and dependent on legislation. So for those that are not American investors, maybe you know, maybe you don't. Anyway, because a portion of people that view my channel are international investors, surprisingly. But in America, federal legalization is not it's not legal yet on a federal level. We have different state jurisdictions, and if you visited the United States, maybe in some states that you visited, you were able to consume cannabis products. That's not like that in every state. So yeah, so these these actual cannabis dispensary businesses, some of them are in individual states, some of them are multi-state operators. Planet 13 is a multi-state operator, but is not as big as the other American over-the-counter stock multi-state operators that are in an actual cannabis ETF that has requirements to fulfill that. So Planet 13 goes under the radar when it comes to that. But I see the most value in the Planet as averse to all the other competitors throughout the whole market. So let's pull something up real quick. I'm going to disclose my position. All right. Let's pull this up. So here's my Planet 13 position. As you can see, I started investing in this thing years ago. Now, I've come to the conclusion right around maybe, yep, 2022 May. I thought to myself, you know what? This is going to be in bear market for a while. I'm going to take a break. I don't think anything's going to happen. There's no catalyst. There's no, you know, the timing is not right. So I took a break from investing into this sector. But I've always kept track of Planet 13 and how they've been doing. So as you can see, I stopped buying shares here in 2022 May. And then, like a year later, literally a little over a year later, in 2023 May, I started buying shares again at these levels. Now, and then the stock went up a little bit in February. I think, you know what, it got a little ahead of itself. It's going to go back down. Um, so, but there's a lot of things that are happening. I think this is the year for the MJ sector. This is it. All right. I have decided that I'm going to be positioned into this company. So, as you can see, in March last month, I have positioned heavily into this company, and my Patreon supporters have been notified when that happened with buy and sell alerts, and I have exclusive content on there that pretty much explains my analysis and why I'm doing the things I'm doing and positioning into the sector. While everybody in the market is chasing AI and Nvidia, I've been positioning heavily tactically into this company. All right, because I think there's a lot of opportunity here. In fact, so much so, I'll make the bold statement: in a couple more months, I wouldn't be surprised if my stock is worth double what it is right now. All right. So let's get into the little thesis, because I don't want to make this video too long. All right. So Here it is. So I've positioned this is so legally. There's a lot of legislation happening for the MJ sector right now. Okay, just today, the Florida Supreme Court approved the ballot measure to legalize recreational marijuana. So what this means is in November, there's going to be a state vote for the ballot for their election, and state legalization for recreational use in the state of Florida will be on the ballot. So the people are going to be able to vote. All right. I'm going to I'm going to assume, and maybe this is speculation, there's a little research behind it, but the majority of the consensus is that most people are in favor of recreational legalization of the products. So I mean, I think that that momentum is going for us now. Um, so that's one thing. Now, the president has pretty much put a guidance to the HHS to do a study and send to the DEA for rescheduling. All right. So we'll look at that. It says right here there's an 80% chance that there's a likeliness that the DEA will reschedule this thing. All right. I mean, when they reschedule MJ, the reclassification will do a few things. One, for criminal penalties, it'll retroactively pardon a bunch of criminals that were alleged now are considered criminals that have violations for MJ, possession and whatever. But importantly, it would remove the 280E tax burden. So a lot of companies get, according to the IRS tax code, a lot of companies can write off a lot of business expenses and so forth. MJ companies do not benefit. They're not able to write off a lot of things. In fact, they get taxed even heavier because of the whole legalization issues. Okay. So that's another catalyst that's coming around the corner. Um, I'm tracking Biden during the State of the Union address mentioned a little snippet about this as well. So that might put a little pressure on the DEA. Who knows? All right, but I'm banking on the DEA rescheduling it, and I'm not completely sure if they are the real actual authority, even if they claim to be. Okay, and if they are the authority, I'm pretty sure they're appointed officials, so politicians can pretty much just reappoint or remove them and reappoint someone who will reclassify it, if that makes sense. I don't know if they'll do that or they'll go as far as to do that, but we'll see. There's going to be a lot of leadership changeover because it's an election year, if you will. So anything's possible, I guess. All right. So that's one of the catalysts for Planet. Now, how is Planet positioning to capitalize off Florida? All right. So they are actually they've been in talks ahead of time to acquire the Vitacan company. All right. So Vitacan, this is a company that has a bunch of dispensaries throughout Florida. If so, I mean, they're positioning for recreational use in Florida, and their intent is to build a mega store in Miami. All right, once recreational use happens, Florida is the key. I believe that Florida is the main key. Sure, we got some expansion in Illinois, and sure, we got different. We got the Vegas store, and maybe California will break even in a few years. Who knows? In that crazy market, but Florida, I believe, is the key for Planet. All right. Their positioning. So a couple things. The acquisition didn't go through. All right, not yet. They're still pending on the acquisition to close the Vitacan. Once they've closed this Vitacan acquisition, I'm hoping they do this before rescheduling and before the ballot. I hope we're all positioned properly for that. So that way, when it's actually effective, if the people in Florida vote for state recreational use, I'm hoping Planet is positioned on day one of legalization to capitalize and start receiving revenue based on that. And I believe there's pent up demand for that as well, for that recreational use to be capitalized. I did some research of the Vitacan. I mean, if they go through with the acquisition, they'll own about, right off the get-go, 5% of the industry in that state. All right. So something to consider, and they can grow from there. What does this mean for the stock? All right. So I got 16,500 shares. I invested over 10 G's invested capital. Cost basis is 62 cents a share. Yes, I've done quite a bit of averaging down, and you see that I've deployed over 6 G's last month into closing out this position and capping it off, and being strategically positioned for this. So that way, all I need to do is hold my shares and enjoy the upside. Um, so I think that I think investors in the planet got a good year coming to them. Um, I think end of year price target. I think we get a two. I think we get a 3x. All right. If everything goes well, if the legislation actually goes in favor, the acquisition goes through for the Vitacan. The Florida ballot goes through, the recreational uses legalized, and the DEA reschedules. We can be looking at 3x, maybe even 3 to 5x, depending on market sentiment and market shift towards the reciprocation of the legislation. So if the legislation goes through, the market may see, there may be an opening of invested capital, a floodgate. The floodgates may open for investor capital to come into this industry to try to bum rush ahead to getting these revenues. All right. I'm positioned either way. I made my play. There's my cards. They're shown. That video that I posted on my Patreon, that'll come out in a few months. All right. It's a promotional video for my Patreon. So that's going to pretty much explain a lot more stuff. But yeah, if you're an investor in this space, and you like Planet 13, consider subscribing to my channel. From time to time, I follow up with the planet. I post out videos about it. I'm a shareholder, so you get to see my analysis and how I think about certain situations as they come through. Okay, so consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification, and check out my Patreon for more, buy and sell alerts, and exclusive content and analysis and so forth. But with that being said, thank y'all, and enjoy the rest of y'all week.